Spent a good portion of my life, most poignantly over the past 10 years, preparing for disasters that never came. Maybe you can relate. We'll talk about that today. A few hours ago, I was driving home from Mass with my wife, and she asked me what I was going to do today. And as you can see, my office is a mess, so I told her I was going to clean. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting rid of a lot of baggage, namely books. And so as we were having this conversation about what my plan was to do today and knowing that I was going to get in here and I was going to purge more books, a thought came to me. There's a series of books that I have that I'm not willing to part with, or at least that was my paradigm when I bought these books and the attitude I embodied when I moved to this ranch 5-6 years ago. And that was that there were a certain class of books that were so critical to the prevention of the disaster that I've been running away from, that never happened. I'm not sure it ever will. Right here. So we got Surviving Economic Collapse. Economic collapse has not happened yet. And people are still waiting. I bought this book in 2014. This book, in fact, was the book that sent me down the rabbit hole of survival. I woke up with a real bad dream in 2014 that everything that I had built would be taken away. There was a big burly man in my kitchen wearing like a lumberjack outfit with an axe. And he had an ominous look in his face and he says, "Elliott, it's just a matter of time. Everything is going to be gone." I don't know. That was my subconscious telling me something, and I ran with it. There was a latent fear within me. And I said, let me go do some research on what I should buy if the collapse happens, if everything's taken away from me, and so on and so forth. You know what to do if there's no dentist, right? What are you going to do when the apocalypse hits and the grid goes down and your teeth start to rot? Well, you're going to need a book like this, won't you? Right? That's a disaster. I want to avoid a disaster. I'm preparing for the disaster, for the collapse, right? How to survive urban, suburban survival solutions, collapse. Look, and when there's no doctors, what are you going to do if there's no doctors? That can be a very serious threat to try to avoid. I was becoming a professional right before I moved to this house. So of course we're talking right after the pandemic, 2021. I was becoming a professional prepper, but more accurately, I was becoming professionally fearful and living my life to avoid imminent disasters, preparing for disasters that never happened. And of course, I'm talking about something that's very acute, very gross, very obvious, something that we can see. We all experienced the pandemic, and there was a general feeling of fear, threat, right? Pandemic, right? That's what it means. That we all had. But I think we carry it with us all the time anyway. We just had the pandemic to sort of nudge it up out of us. And I think that's what it did for me. I was reflecting after, noticing these books and thinking about my state of mind 6 years ago, and all of the wasted money and all the wasted time I put into this place. For example, I'm looking outside right now where I planted an orchard. In all of my haste, when I first got here, believing that there was going to be food shortages, that the supply lines were going to collapse, right? Like there were ships in the harbor. I don't know if you guys remember. There was a lot of fear. Food prices were going up. So I'm like, I need to be able to produce my own food. And in my haste, I went and I bought a bunch of fruit trees and planted them. They're all dead. Every single one of them's dead. The first winter after planting all of them, we had the worst frost in Central Florida in like 100 years Wow, it's going to be colder than it's ever been. Destroyed my entire crop. I must have paid around $6,000 for that. Down the toilet, down the drain, preparing for shit that never happened, wasting my time avoiding fears that do not exist, projecting my mind into a future that may or may not be lined up with my imagination, my fearful imagination. I also have out here, I have my own well, but having my own well wasn't good enough. I need to be able to power that well in case the power was out. So I buy solar energy, a solar battery, to make sure that I continue to have the water that I need if there's a collapse. That solar system broke 3 years ago. I haven't been able to fix it. I haven't been able to find somebody who can fix it. I know it's a pretty simple fix, but I just haven't had the time. And maybe it's normalcy bias, but I'm starting to feel like I might never need it. I wasted money on all kinds of security things, guns. You know how much money I spent on guns? I don't want to tell you how many rifles I have, handguns I have, how much ammo I saved up for, because you never knew. I made sure that everybody in my family was trained with firearms and we got enough ammo that we can hold off the bad guys that never came. Now, I know a lot of you guys here right now, you're probably saying to yourself, Elliott, just because they never came doesn't mean that they won't. And Elliott, I know that there's a saying that many of us live by, that you're better off safe than sorry, Elliott. So what is this denigration against the preparation of your damnation really all about? My friends, I'm not speaking about what I did or what we tend to do in response to a stimulus. That's neutral. But what has to be recognized is the sentiment from which that response proceeds. And I'm just being honest, I'm being transparent, I'm sharing with you guys that for many, many, many years, probably most of my life, most of what I did not come from love. Because we really only have two. You're either coming from love or you're coming from fear. You're either hot or you're cold. Not lukewarm. You get spit out the mouth. So if I know I'm not operating from fear. I am operating from fear. I've been trained to operate from fear since the time I was a child. Like, I remember being in school and I never pursued good grades. In fact, I don't know any kid that pursues good grades. I don't know any kid that goes into first, second, third grade and is excited to get A's. But I do know one thing, I don't want an F. I never pursued anything. I was running away from a threat. I was running away from the pain of bringing home a bad grade from my parents. I was afraid of being different than the other kids. So I had to do everything that I had to do in order to avoid pain, but never, ever was it to seek the opposite. Peace. I never chased grades for peace. I didn't buy these books and prep and buy guns for peace. I don't have rotting food in my cabinet. I bought those like buckets of survival food. I haven't seen them in 10 years. Buckets and buckets of them because of peace, because of love. But because of fear. I could say I did it because I love my family. I want to see them survive. But if I'm honest, it was mostly because I didn't want to see them die. If I'm honest with myself, and I don't know about you, but 90% of what I do is to avoid pain, to divert collapse, to prepare for the threat. The chaos, the big bad looming thing that may or may not ever come. I've been trained this way. But lately, I'm beginning to see it more clearly and see through the illusion and see through the lie that is I. So what do we do about this, right? Like, okay, there's a lot of great arguments out there, Elliott. Better safe than sorry. But what is safety? What is safe? Where does safety come from? If we put our trust in material things and say that they will make us safe, we have collapsed all divine potential down into the miniature imagination that we have. If we say that I have to prepare, well, how about this in the gospel? Jesus sends his students out to go and share the good news. And one of the things he tells them is, do not prepare. Do not prepare your speeches, for the Holy Spirit will fill your mouth and tell you what to say at the right time in the right place. The God-man with the greatest mission, sending out his students with the greatest mission, the great mission, they call it the Great Commission. He tells them, do not prepare. How much more does a mission like that prompt in our ego a need to prepare than for going on a first date with it, or preparing your dating profile, right? Or preparing for a disaster that never happens. I'm in a strange place right now where I'm teetering between abandonment and what I'm learning to mean what abandonment means. And this part of me, this heavy part of me, this rational part of me that is still highly yoked to attachment. Because attachment's all we're taught. We're taught to make everything very serious. Everything is very serious. From the time you're a kid and you go to school and that's the first time they tell you. I remember taking standardized tests and the type of seriousness that the teacher was trying to inject into our little minds about how important these fucking bubbles we were about to scribble in with number 2 pencils actually meant. I remember that sticks with me that day. She's passing out these very important envelopes with a very important pencil, and we got to follow these very important rules. Whole lot of very important bullshit. But we're not just being trained to take the test, we're being trained to operate that way in life. To operate out of fear and to make everything more seriously, give things more importance than they actually deserve, especially created things. We're manipulated to be hypnotized by material distractions. That's what the whole pandemic was about. It was a material distraction to launch us into fear and doing a bunch of weird shit like I did. Buying a bunch of books. Prepping. So I'm starting to see through that. I'm starting to see through a lot of what I took for granted for many, many, many years, many generations. I'm 47 years old. I'm stepping off of the platform of attachment, and I've landed with one foot on detachment, abandonment. And this foot that's on attachment is getting lighter and lighter by the day. And maybe I need somebody to talk some fucking sense into me to not jump off this cliff. But every day, and maybe it's my own cope, I need somebody to talk some sense into me. But day by day, I care less. Like if there is no doctor, I don't care because the doctor is not my savior. The doctor is not my source. The doctor does not provide health. There's only one power. There's only one source. There's only one health. And that is in God. And if I recognize that truth, then circumstances have no power over me. This is the message of the cross. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that if there's no doctor there that I'm going to be okay. But if there's no doctor there and I get an infection and I'm dying as a result of no doctor being there, then that's okay. Because there's no mistake in God. There's no mistake in God. Now, every action is measured by the sentiment from which it proceeds. There may be people that have this book, that bought this book out of the love for knowing how to do village health care. The person may have bought this book and went through the book and did all the things in the book, and they were deeply in their soul was moved by the things in this book. And now this person is prepared for when the things that happen. And this book is just merely a manual that represents the internalization of the movement of the divine in that person to make them use this book profitably. But that's not what I did. I was afraid. What if there's no doctors? Well, I got to buy this book. And you know what I literally did? I put the power in the book. I put the power, because I never read the fucking book. But I feel powerful because I have the book. And here I am getting rid of a lot of books. I'm purging, getting rid of a lot of books. One of the books I don't want to get rid of is this one because it gives me a false sense of power. Like somehow I got power over my circumstances. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. If you're going to die, you're going to die. When it's your time, it's your time. When it's my time, it's my time. What's supposed to unfold will unfold in the rightness of time. All I can do is get in the way. And if I buy this out of fear, and it somehow prolongs my life, an extra year, 2 years, maybe 10 years, it may not be a life worth living because it will be propped up by the sentiment of fear. If I gotta live the next 30 years of my life, I'm 47 years old. Who knows how long I'm gonna live? I say maybe 47. So let's say another 30 years. If I continue to live the next 30 years of my life, running away, trying to avoid disasters and problems that never come, I'd rather not be alive. There's too much stress. There's too much adrenal overload. It's too much imaginary stress. There's too much making bullshit up that doesn't exist. What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? And can you release yourself to it? Can you abandon yourself to it? That's the real gift. That's the real strength. That's the real value. It's not in the orchard. And that's what I think God was trying to show me. When I came here, I was so full of fear and all of my projects failed. Because God, in retrospect, I'm having a lot of retrospect about my time in this home because I'll be leaving soon. I'm having a lot of retrospect. I'm thinking back, and I came here with so much fear. I was on TRT. I was competing in strongman. I was making YouTube videos on both of my channels. I was planting orchards. I was digging wells. I didn't dig the well, but you see what I'm saying? I was doing a whole bunch of shit. None of it was out of love. It was all out of panic. It was all out of fear. It was all out of the lie that I am somehow in control of my life. Vanity, vanity. It's all vanity. Dust. It's all in the dust now. Literally, I had a beautiful orchard. It's all dirt now. They all died. Vain action. That's what most of if I look back at my life, and you know what? Let me just stop right there. Because I can't even look at my life with the true justice of God's eyes. I can't judge my life. I can't judge my life. The only measurement by which I could judge my life is to the degree of awareness I'm walking through it. Not so that I can make better decisions or do something different, but so that I can see unobstructedly what God is divinely unfolding in front of me. And just step into that. I don't want anything. I don't want to avoid anything. I don't want to reach for anything. I want nothing but God's will. God's will. That's it. And his will is the simplest thing in the world. It's so simple that Jesus says amongst the geniuses that he was speaking with, At a place in the gospel that unless you become like one of these, and he takes a little child and puts in their center, you will not enter the kingdom. Ultimate retard maxing. It's the most brilliant thing I've ever come across. Let life unfold naturally. The more I prepare for imaginary disasters, the more I fall away from God's will, his perfect will, through resistance. That's what I'm doing when I'm buying these books and I'm storing this food and I'm planting these food and it's not from my love. I'm not saying that there aren't people that love it. There are true homesteaders. There are true people. Like the guy that I was saying about reading, it's true for him. It's born out of his heart. I want people like that around my life, but that's not me. I thought my will was enough to change me into a homesteader, into a healer, a medicine man, right? Into a man that knows how to use firearms and defend himself. Those were all lenses by which I painted an imaginary vision and projected it onto the world for myself. Those aren't my true identity. And identity is dynamic. So who we are today ain't gonna be who we are tomorrow. So that's it, that's all. Just a little reflection on that, y'all. Listen, man, it sounds like I'm preaching, but really, I'm just reflecting on how dumb I am and how much dumber I intend to become. Done.